Hey guys, it's Chris. From animals attacking their masters out of instinct to trained professionals being suddenly struck by their prized animals and more. Join me as I show you 10 times when animal taming went wrong. Number 10. Tiger King. One of the major events of 2020 in pop culture was that of the Netflix documentary series Tiger King. It was released at the beginning of the global pandemic, and as a result of that, people watched the story of Joe Exotic in earnest, as they saw how he opened up a massive exotic animal zoo and created a cult personality of sorts with both the humans and the animals. This was part of the problem, because while you could argue that Joe Exotic had a loving affection for animals as a whole, there were times where he thought the animals were much kinder than they were. Joe Exotic himself was attacked by these tamed animals, and that was just the start of all his problems at the zoo he ran. Of course, as the series continued, there would be many more to come. But it wasn't just Joe Exotic that had this problem. His rival in Carole Baskin also had this problem where one of her tamed tigers went and attacked a volunteer. Of course, we all know that Joe Exotic is now incarcerated because he attempted to hire someone to murder Miss Baskin. It's clear that this is a guy who doesn't have all his mental faculties in order. This is a key thing to be noted because many zoos will tell you that you can train an animal but never tame it. And this is proof of that, because many people have been hurt in these two zoos. Have you watched the documentary series about Tiger King? What did you think of it? Are you happy that Joe Exotic is in prison? Tell me what you think of the characters and their risky lifestyles with dangerous animals. Write a comment with your opinion down below. Then be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 9. Siegfried and Roy. Arguably one of the most infamous cases of a tamed animal attacking its trainer is that of the famed showmen Siegfried and Roy. These two were some of the biggest names in Las Vegas, and the biggest part of their act was that of using tamed and trained white lions and tigers to do all sorts of stunts. In 2003, Roy Horn was doing a show on his birthday in front of a lot of friends and family when one of the white tigers, Montecore, bit Roy in front of the audience and dragged him off stage. When assistants sprayed Montecore with fire-extinguishing carbon dioxide canisters, the tiger finally let Roy go. Now, the official story is that Roy was actually having a stroke, and that the tiger dragged him off in order to protect him. But according to a new interview with the pair's animal handler, Chris Lawrence, that's not the case. Many of the handlers thought that Roy was treating the cats more like props than he was respecting them for who they were, Lawrence explained to news outlets. That can only work as long as there are no variables, which is impossible considering that you're dealing with a living, thinking animal. Lawrence further noted that during Roy and the tiger's performance, things quickly spiraled in terms of what the two were supposed to do, and that's what led to the attack. To this day, he's still haunted by what happened. It's unclear exactly what the root cause of the tiger's attack was, but fortunately, the tiger's life was spared. Roy Horn, though, suffered numerous injuries and only partially recovered from them before passing away in 2020 due to complications from coronavirus. Number 8. KELCI SAFFERY. Heading back to the realm of Tiger King, it wasn't just Joe Exotic and Carole Baskin who had trouble controlling the animals they felt were tame. On the Joe Exotic side of things was KELCI SAFFERY, who, as the Tiger King documentary shows, was one of Joe Exotic's most valuable workers, and someone who had a good understanding of how to handle the animals. That is, until one day changed all of that. During a routine feeding of the tigers, KELCI decided not to use the feeding stick that was provided, and felt it would be fine to go and stick his arm through the cage and feed the tiger that way. The tiger reacted on instinct and mauled KELCI's arm. Of course, this led to the legendary Joe Exotic line of, "I am never going to financially recover from this." At the hospital, Saf was told that the arm was so badly injured by the tiger that it would take many surgeries and years of physical therapy to get it back to its full use. KELCI decided to amputate the arm instead. He returned to work 5 days later, and in terms of blame, he only blamed himself, not Joe Exotic and not the tiger. Number 7. VALENTIN BULICH. VALENTIN BULICH was a young man who got hired by a major circus in Russia. His job at first was just to clean the bear cages, a rather standard opening position. However, he felt he was destined to go and be an animal trainer, and so thus he thought it would be a good idea to start training with the bear cubs and work from there. As he worked with the bears, his confidence grew and grew, to the point where he felt confident enough to actually perform with the bears, including a 7-year-old one named Yasha. Yasha was a trained bear and knew how to do various things on command. Then, in October of 2020, Valentin felt so confident in performing with Yasha that he took the keys to the bear cage, went in it, and locked himself inside with the bear. When he did this, Yasha attacked and basically ripped him limb from limb. Ironically enough, while Yasha did kill him, she wasn't held responsible for the attack because of the improper etiquette done by BULICH. Wild animals are wild for a reason. Number 6. Patty Perry. In late 2019, Patty Perry, who is a well-known conservationist and is known for having a good relationship with animals, was mauled by 2 of the very tigers under her care. She was the founder of Wildlife Environmental Conservation in California. The enclosure had over 50 animals in it, including tigers, eagles, leopards, zebras, and so on. The tigers that mauled her were particularly close to her in theory, as she raised them since they were just cubs. Sure enough, Patty was very comfortable with them, and during playtime, one of the tigers wrapped its arms around her legs, taking her to the ground. After doing so, the other tiger came and pounced on her, and the 2 began to attack in earnest. Eventually, she was pulled away by coworkers and taken to the hospital where she was able to recover. To this day, she claims the tigers didn't mean to hurt her, and that the incident was just rough play. Number 5. Jennifer Brown. Jennifer Brown was a woman who was mauled by a couple of lions as she tried to go and clean their cages. She worked at the Shoalhaven Zoo in New South Wales in Australia. The lions that were in the cage were a pair of cub brothers named Ariel and Judah. They'd been born and raised in the zoo, and as such, the zoo felt they were perfectly tame and thus wouldn't cause anyone harm. But when Jennifer got into the cage, the 2 pounced on her without missing a beat. She was saved by her coworkers and rushed to the hospital. Upon working on her, the nurses described the attack as vicious, and thus it would not be considered an accident in terms of their actions. However, despite the damage done to Jennifer, who was able to recover thankfully, the lion brothers were spared. Perhaps the zoo didn't want to punish them for their animal instincts, it's hard to tell. Number 4. Marius and Humphrey. There once was a man named Marius Els. He lived in South Africa and he liked having exotic animals as pets. One of his favorites was a hippo named Humphrey. Hippos are fearsome and violent animals, but Marius must have thought that he would not have trouble with his hippo pet. Marius and Humphrey were apparently very close, and Marius truly did love his pet hippo. However, one day Humphrey attacked Marius and killed him. What was left of his body was found in the river days later. The irony of this particular death is manifold. First and foremost, Marius stated many times and in many interviews that he felt that Humphrey was like a son to him. This is because Els had raised his hippo since he was 5 months old, which in most cases would usually mean a large bond of trust and love, even with the most extreme of animals. However, Humphrey had displayed violent behavior in the past. For example, the hippo would throw Els off its back when he tried to ride the creature, even though Els just laughed this off. Humphrey also went and nearly attacked a couple of canoeists on their property once, though Els was able to stop Humphrey and stated that he only went after them because he was hungry. These should have been signs of danger, but Els just laughed them off, and now he's gone. Hippos are dangerous creatures and should always be given a wide berth, as the story proves. Number 3. James Davis. James Davis and his wife had a very special pet, a chimpanzee named Mo. Chimpanzees are seen as a kind of exotic pet, and many will go out of their way to get one. But as Davis would learn, there would be a cost to his action. At first, everything was fine for the couple and their chimp. They saved the chimp from poachers after they'd killed Mo's mother. Decades passed, and in 1999, Mo started acting out. He bit off a part of a neighbor's finger and attacked a police officer. After these events, Mo was put into an animal shelter, but the Davises continued to visit him, including in 2005 when they brought him a cake for his birthday. Unbeknownst to them, 2 other supposedly tamed chimps had gotten loose in the shelter, and these 2 attacked James. He was severely mauled, including having most of his face ripped off, including his nose and lips. Somewhat ironically, while he survived the chimp attack, after he got out of a coma, he asked if Mo was all right. Number 2. PIERRE SPENEL. Elephants are majestic creatures that are meant to be treated with awe and respect, and there are many stories of them getting close with humans in a variety of ways. But at the Mitzpah Shrine in Fort Wayne, Indiana, an unfortunate incident involving an elephant was going to happen. 3 Asian elephants were being escorted onto a trailer, and each of them was over 7,000 pounds. The process of getting them onto the trailer and sealing them up was being done by 40-year-old PIERRE SPENEL, who was an animal trainer. However, as he was doing the final locking of the trailer, the bar he was holding onto broke, and he fell backwards towards the elephants. After being on the ground, the elephants promptly stomped him to death. Of course, this would have been very easy to do even accidentally given their massive frames. The irony here is that there was no malice in the attack, because elephants are known to be creatures of curiosity and are known to stomp on things they don't openly recognize. Number 1. Ettore Weber. This very well-known incident happened at Circo Orfei, a circus in Italy that's very popular. One of the animal trainers was a man named Ettore Weber, who'd been working with the tigers one day when one of them decided to pounce. Ettore was knocked off his feet and onto the ground, by which time the other tigers came in and attacked him as well. The other circus workers tried to get them off, but to no avail. In fact, the tigers played with his body for a half hour before being done with him. Ettore survived but had major injuries. It was also revealed that Ettore was not the nicest animal trainer around and had abused the tigers, among other animals, quite a lot. Perhaps the tigers were just exacting their revenge. This is why today there are only a few circuses that have animals as part of their acts, as it's seen as cruel to house them and train them, especially given the dangers. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these stories? Which one did you think was the worst? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and I'll see you next time on the channel.